But what happened was that Bob Haldeman, President Nixon's chief of staff, called J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI director then, and said that the boss wants some background on a correspondent named Dan Schorr. Apparently, the FBI misunderstood what was meant by background, because in FBI, background, the usual term for a background check on somebody who's going to be appointed to an important post. And apparently, with that misunderstanding, Hoover opened up a wide open investigation, sending people to talk to my boss, to my brother. A FBI agent came to see me at my office and said, I need some background on your education. I said, why? He said, well, sir, you must know better than I, but this is the background checks we perform on someone who's going to be appointed to a position of trust and confidence in the United States government. I said, wow, you gotta be kidding. But sir, if you think you don't want to go proceed with this, I said, well, at least until I find out what the job is.
That's right.
So he goes back and reports that Dan Schorr says he doesn't know which kind of a job to have. And Haldeman said, you what? You told him that you're going to investigate him? Stop it right away. Oh, God, we're in trouble. Calls in Chuck Colson, a couple of people. Says, listen, we have some crisis management to do. They misunderstood, and the FBI investigated Dan Schorr, and that's bound to get into the papers. And what is it when it does? What do we say? And so finally, Colson said, there's only one way to do it. And however crazy it sounds, we have to announce that we were considering him for a job, and that we had neglected to tell him before the investigation started. They tried to do that. They actually, in the press room, they did say something like that. I laughed a lot. When the Senate Watergate Committee investigated, they demanded to know about that, among the many other things.
While we're on Watergate, it is kind of extraordinary how you came to end up on the president's infamous enemies list. It is, and how the world discovers this, including you yourself.
Including I myself.
If you wouldn't mind running us through that.
I don't mind. Do you have enough tape?
I think so. They're loaded up pretty well.
During the Senate Watergate hearings, it came out, John Dean actually, a former White House counsel, revealed it, that they had at the White House a list of people called the enemies list, those people that we should do harm to. Those of us who were covering the hearings, as I was day and night practically, waited outside. When we heard about these enemies lists, we sort of said, who's on it? And we sent somebody to the office and came back and handed me a copy of something while I was talking on the air. And the guy said to me, enemies list, and handed it to me. And I said, I have now received the first of the Nixon enemies list, and let me, without losing any more time, tell you who's on it. Let's see here. It's numbered names. There are 20 names on this, numbered. Number 17, Paul Newman. Number 18, Daniel Schorr. And I almost fainted. I had not seen it. I had not prepared for it. And in the course of telling a story, which I told was the story I was covering, all of a sudden there I was in my own story.
Just reading the list about and has your own name.
And it had Daniel Schorr, a real media enemy, it said next to it. And and I've seen the tape of what I did, and I'm quite proud of myself. I didn't faint. I didn't say wow. I didn't do anything. I read off the name with the other names. It's just as though it was another name.
And said back to you or something like that.
And then said back to George Herman, who was anchoring from from our office. That's right.
Just astonishing.
And that was the most electrifying moment I've spent in my career.
which, given your career, is no small comment. That is an incredible story.